There was a man in Medina named Nu'ayman ibn Amr. He was one of the early Muslims and a close companion of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But he was different. He wasn't just known for his bravery or knowledge. He was famous for something else. He was known as the prankster of Medina, the man who made people laugh, the man who even made the Prophet, peace be upon him, laugh again and again. Nu'ayman had a big heart. He loved Islam. He loved the Prophet, and he loved to bring joy to people's faces. He didn't do cruel pranks. His jokes were full of kindness. His humor was soft, never hurtful. And that's what made him special. One day, some people came to Medina selling fresh food from outside the city. It was rare and expensive. Nuayman saw their goods and thought, this would make the Prophet so happy. But he didn't have money. That didn't stop him. He walked up to the sellers, picked the best food, and said, bring this to the house of the Prophet. It's a gift. The sellers smiled and agreed.
Later, they went to the Prophet, peace be upon him, to collect payment. The Prophet was surprised. Who sent this food? They said, your companion, Nu'ayman. The Prophet, peace be upon him, laughed. He knew. Nu'ayman did it again. He called for him and asked, did you tell them it was a gift from me? Nu'ayman smiled and said, Ya Rasulullah, I wanted you to enjoy it. I knew you would. I had no money, so I made it your gift. The Prophet, peace be upon him, laughed out loud, not out of anger, but out of love, because Nu'ayman's heart was always pure. This was just one of his many pranks. Another time, a guest came to visit the Prophet, peace be upon him. The man was blind. While the Prophet was away, Nu'ayman saw the blind man resting. An idea popped into his head. He quietly took the man's hand and said, come, I'll take you back home. But he didn't. He walked him in circles and left him in a different place. When the Prophet came back, the blind man said, someone played a trick on me. The Prophet asked around. People laughed and pointed. Nu'ayman again. The Prophet just smiled and shook his head. He knew this was who Nu'ayman was. A joker, a heart full of joy.
Nu'ayman once saw a man selling a camel. He waited until no one was watching. Then he walked behind the camel and cut off its tail. The seller was shocked. Who did this to my camel? He shouted. People laughed. It's Nu'ayman, they said. When the Prophet heard, he called him. Why would you do that? Nu'ayman replied with a straight face. Ya Rasulullah, I wanted to see what a camel would look like if it were a horse. The Prophet couldn't help but laugh again. One day, Nu'ayman went to the market. He saw a man selling honey and butter. It was expensive. He picked some and told the seller, send this to the Prophet's house, he'll pay you. Again, he had no money. The seller went. The Prophet smiled and said, Nu'ayman again? And then he paid. He didn't scold him. He didn't get angry. He knew this man. He loved him. And he enjoyed his sense of humor. But Nu'ayman wasn't just funny. He was brave. He fought in battles. He stood beside the Prophet in hard times. He never ran away from danger. He had a pure soul, even when he joked. His heart was always with the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Sometimes people in the community would say, Nu'ayman jokes too much. But the Prophet never told him to stop. In fact, he once said, Nu'ayman is loved by Allah and His Messenger. Because he brought smiles, because he spread happiness, because he made people feel good. Nu'ayman once pulled a prank on Umar ibn Khattab, the strong and serious companion. He sold him a slave who wasn't really a slave. Umar came to collect him, and the man said, I'm a free man. Umar returned and shouted, Nu'ayman, what have you done? And again people laughed. Even Umar had to smile, because it was harmless fun. And do you know the most beautiful thing? The Prophet never said, stop. He never told Nu'ayman to change, because he understood his heart, and because his jokes were never to hurt, only to make people laugh. Even after the Prophet, peace be upon him, passed away, Nu'ayman continued to be himself. He would walk through Medina with a big smile, sometimes poor, sometimes in need, but always joking, always kind.
When Nu'ayman grew older, his body became weak, but his smile never faded. He once told someone, "I hope when I die, people will laugh and cry at the same time." And truly, when he passed away, the city of Medina felt empty. People cried because the joy-bringer was gone, but they also smiled because they remembered his jokes, his pranks, his laughter. The scholars say that Nu'ayman ibn Amr is a reminder that Islam is not always serious, that you can be funny and faithful, that laughter has a place in religion, that kindness and humor can live in one heart, and most importantly, that the Prophet Muhammad loved to laugh too. And Nu'ayman gave him that gift. This story is not just about a prankster. It's about a heart full of love. It's about using humor to lift people's spirits, to bring people together, to make the Prophet smile.
So the next time you laugh with someone, remember Nu'ayman,
The prankster of Medina,
the man who made the Prophet, peace be upon him, laugh.
and the companion who brought joy to Islam.